Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by the voice of combat sports, the great Teddy Atlas. Teddy, busy weekend. How'd you like it?
Good. 27 pounds, by the way, Ken. That's where I'm at.
You look great.
Get that out of the way. Just get that out of the way because I know the fans are dying to hear where I'm at on the scale, and that's where I am. 3 pounds off from my target weight. But to get to the fights, if we're going to start with the boxing before the UFC, we should start. And I was going to tell Rob this, to get a caption, because he does a real good job with this stuff, with the artwork. And, if I want to film up a clip up or, any kind of, whatever caption, as I said, I'd like to start, and I wish I had a prop here of this, but I'd like to start with handcuffs. Because I want to start with handcuffs. No, you guys out there, I'm not getting kinky craziness with that crazy. No, it's nothing like that. I just want accountability and what I think is proper in my sport that I love, boxing. And I think handcuffs are what this week calls for Glenn Feldman, the judge in the Joshua Usyk fight. Yeah, you got to pay, Sam, you got to pay handcuffs. I wish my grandson was here. He'd give me his make-believe one.
I had my old prison guard uniform and handcuffs that I could have brought for a prop. Had you told me, I would have come dressed as a police officer.
I'm so sorry I did not. But we made the most of it without the prop. That's what we need. We need handcuffs to start because we got to get rid of judges like this. And that's the problem in our sport. There's no oversight. There's no repercussions. This guy will be working again next week. It's absurd. But I digress, not regress, by the way. I'm not going to regress this week, Ken. I'm going to digress. I know our fans, love when I play games with the English language a little bit. But I will regress instead of digress instead of regressing or recessing. I will recess right now to my man Ken.
All right, well, let's jump into the main event. Anthony Joshua in spots looked great. In the ninth round, he looked as good as he's ever looked. Usyk's just too much. I think for as much credit as Joshua gets for looking unbelievable in round 9, I give Usyk even more credit for being able to adjust, recoup, make the adjustments that he needed to against Joshua, and basically come out and completely dominate him the rest of the fight. At the ninth round, I thought, oh man, Usyk's running out of gas. And gas tank was a big topic this week, and we'll talk about it in particular with regards to the UFC. But I wanted to know from you, if you think, I think sometimes, this is my impression, is sometimes guys run out of gas and you could tell they're tired, and we'll talk about Rockhold later, clearly exhausted. There's other times, like Regis Prograis against Josh Taylor, I talked about this with Regis, where it looks like he's out of gas or he's lacking confidence in his gas tank. It's not that he's necessarily out of gas. And Joshua looked like he just couldn't keep it going in the 10th. And I wonder if he was out of gas or if he was so nervous that he'd run out of gas and become like Luke Rockhold, where he could barely keep his hands up, that he doesn't overextend himself. And look, the fight I thought was as entertaining as a heavyweight fight gets. Obviously, you like to see some finality in a knockout. That always gets big approval from the fans. But I thought this was a masterpiece in heavyweight boxing and just craftsmanship, especially from Usyk. And like I said, AJ looked good in spots. But at the end of the day, Usyk did exactly what Usyk does and outboxed him and just showed what the sweet science is all about. With that, Teddy, I know you have a lot of things to say about this one. Let's hear it.
Well, sometimes guys punch themselves out and they and they have to get that second win. But sometimes they do. When they have a big round, they push the pedal to the metal, and sometimes they exhaust the gas tank for a moment, but then they replenish it, they refuel, because they get that, they have that real conditioning where they can do that. That might have been it. And sometimes 75% of this game is mental. So sometimes it's to what you touched on. And when you were talking to Prograis, who's a tremendous fighter, and I think he's going to be a champion again, I think he'll win that fight that he's got coming up. But, sometimes it's mental too, that you don't have confidence that you have enough left after spending a lot of it. After spending a lot of your money, so to speak, you don't know if you have any left to go shopping again. And you still have to go shopping because there's still a couple rounds left. So sometimes it is a mental thing where you don't have faith and you're a little hesitant. And it shows in your body language. It shows, a guy who's lacking confidence, the body language will kind of, it will show. And it will kind of, it's kind of like a lie detector test. It'll beep on you and show that, he's not in charge anymore. He's not feeling like the boss anymore. But I think that as much as Joshua had that big 9th round that everybody's been waiting for from him in these fights, and showed what he had to show to try to pull it out of the fire, because he was way behind. Unless you go on the corrupt judge's card, he was way behind on my card. I had it, the final score 9-3. I could see someone saying 8-4, but I had it 9-3, nothing short of 8-4. I wouldn't.
For the record, Feldman had it 5-1 for Joshua halfway through the fight.
Yeah, I think he was doing his job. It's not the job
exactly
that we want people to do, but it's the job that somebody else wanted him to do. It's not the job that the laws want him to do, that his profession wants him to do, that the boxing sport wants him to do. That
his integrity should want him to do. Have some integrity and be honest.
Yeah, it's not the job that he's paid to do. I think, or maybe it is the job he's paid to do, but not the job that professionally by the sport of boxing he's paid to do. He's paid by someone else, maybe outside the sport or maybe inside the sport, as a side thing or taken care of in some way. Something influences him. There's something going on. Like Costa would say, it's either incompetence or corruption. And I don't think anyone could be that incompetent. I really don't. Cuz used to say that too. So then you have to go with corruption. And it happens too often. It's kind of like going to your butcher, and your butcher keeps weighing you, a little bit light, where you're paying for less than you're getting. And he never weighs you heavy. After a while, you got to say, wait a minute, this butcher's not honest. If he weighed me heavy once in a while, I'd say, okay, it's an honest mistake. But if he keeps weighing me, that it's a pound of meat when it's only a half a pound, I got to start to wonder about my butcher. I got to wonder about my judges when they do this crap. So I think at the end of the day, you have to be, really, the fans too. You guys have a responsibility too. And I give credit to our great fans across the pond that you up in arms about this. You got to be up in arms. Yeah, really. Yeah, the fans out there, when you don't say nothing, you're almost part of the problem instead of part of the solution. You got to say something in any way you can, because otherwise it's going to happen to one of your guys one day. It's going to happen to a guy that you love, that you're behind one day. So it's just something that we can't just say it's boxing and shrug our shoulders. We have to try to do anything, And me talking about the corruption in sport, it lost me a job at ESPN. All right, I'm not telling people to lose their job and do what I did, but you got to do something. You got to do it within your comfort level, but you got to do something if you care about such things. Otherwise, you can't complain when it goes the other way against your guy. And getting to the fight again, yeah, Joshua did what we were waiting for him, or people were waiting for him to do finally with the smaller guy. Take charge, go to the smaller body of the smaller man, which I was saying you have to do in a fight plan. I was talking about that. I was talking about it when we were handicapping this fight. But Usyk did what a champion does. He came back in the next round. He behaved the way champions behave. He came right back. And listen, I give credit to Joshua for that round, but I also look at things in a more, I think, just in a more straightforward way than some of the fans do, where you get caught up that right away that everyone's saying, and the writers too, oh, how much better Joshua looked. I didn't think he looked any better. Yeah, he went to the body in the 9th round. Okay, but for the other rounds, there was one guy that was stalking and posing, looking. And there was another guy that was boxing, pot-shotting, countering, winning rounds. That was Usyk. And I added 6-1 after 7 rounds. And then finally the 8th round, Joshua broke through with that round. He started going to the body. And then he had the big 9th round, obviously, where he hurt Usyk and, really had him in trouble. And then Usyk responded again like a champion in the 10th round. Then the 11th round, again. And then the 12th, he finished. Joshua, how do you give him credit for being that much better? First of all, I thought he lost even bigger on the scorecards than the first time. Yes, again, for you haters out there, I'm giving him credit for going to the body finally, for being aggressive finally, for being the boss finally, for acting like the bigger man finally in the 9th round. But the rest of the fight, up to that point, he was way behind, unless you go to a crooked scorecard. He was way behind. So I look at that too, and I detract from him in that. I don't give him credit for that. I say again, he was posing, he was stalking. But the guy that was boxing, the guy that was scoring, there was one guy. That was the guy from the Ukraine. That was the guy who made his country proud. That was the guy who gave his country, hope by saying, yeah, we're fighters. Yeah, we're champions. Yeah, we don't give up. Yeah, we're still here. Yeah, I represent you. And I thought it was a one-sided boxing match up to the 9th round. So he had the 8th and 9th. All right. Again, 10th round, what does Usyk do? He wins the fight. He goes, and Joshua had a chance to close it out in the 9th. He didn't close it out. Usyk comes right back. He claims victory right there by doing what he had to do.
What'd you think on the 12th round? Because Feldman gave Joshua the 12th round as well.
Well, I think that like I said a few months ago, and we got a lot of tension for it, where it was an anatomy for fix instead of anatomy for murder. And Rob put it up the way I wanted to put it up. It got a lot of views, a lot of attention. I think this was anatomy for fix part 2, where you do what you got to do if you want to fix a fight. You get your guy way ahead. He got him way ahead. And he had to really do some bad, dishonest judging to get him way ahead. I had the first round, after 2 rounds, I had it 1-1. After 2 rounds, I had it 1-1. But then after that, I didn't give another round, as I said, to the 8th round. I had it 6-1 going into the 8th. It was all the boxing lesson, the sweet science, as you said, being delved out by Usyk. And then, of course, we get to the 8th and 9th round. I thought that the judge, Feldman, who had it incredibly and very, very upsetting to see this, had it for, Joshua. I thought that, again, you're going to fix a fight, get your guy out in front, and then play with it. Play around with it a little bit. Play, keep it close, but keep your guy ahead. Play around. So he played around, and then he got caught up, Ken. He got a little caught up a little. He almost got in trouble because he wins. He goes and wins the 8th and 9th, Joshua, which is good for Feldman. The crooked judge or the incompetent crooked judge, whatever he was. He gets it wrong. I mean, he gets a chance to go down easy street. And the 8th and 9th, okay, give it to Joshua, of course. So now he had to fight fairly close because he had to keep it close. And all of a sudden, bang, he doesn't expect Usyk. Nobody knows if he's going to do. But Usyk behaves like the champion he is, the fighter that he is, the mentally tough guy that he is, and he comes back and wins the 10th and the 11th and the 12th. And every other judge, the other two judges had it that way. They had it that way. The way I had it, the way you had it, the way most of our fans, I would say, probably had it. But what happened was this judge, Feldman, he says, oh my God, it's close now. I have to I have to give the 10th round to Usyk because if I don't, everybody will know what I'm doing. The gig will be up. I have to give that round to him. I have to give the 11th round to him. And all of a sudden, he's looking at his scorecard, and it's a draw. It's going to be a draw. It's going to be a draw if he goes again and gives the round in the 12th to the man who won it, Usyk. He says, oh, even though it's been all one-way traffic, I got to change. I got to go against the traffic here. I got to save my card. I got to do my job here. and I got to give it now, the 12th round, to Joshua, because I got myself in a corner, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be left in this corner. Not after working so hard all night to get this thing done the way I want to get it done. No way. I'm gonna get out of this the way I need to get out of this and the way I intended to get out of this. So he got jammed up a little bit. Again, when Usyk comes back like a barnstormer in that 10th round, he can't do a damn thing but give it to Usyk. I mean, they'd be bringing the United States Marshals in if he gave it to anyone else.
Feldman, after having it so one-sided early, was probably praying for an Usyk knockout so his card wouldn't be so scrutinized because he had to know, I'm going to get
a Joshua knockout.
But even Usyk, because if Usyk gets the knockout, he's like, oh shit, I'm off the hook. My scorecard isn't going to matter because he has to know I'm going to get killed for this. If the judge who had it 15-13 for Usyk scores one single round that he didn't give to Usyk for Usyk, maybe the 12th, pick a round. All of a sudden it's a draw because he's got to win. Feldman's got him winning. The guy, the Frashenko, has Usyk, and Steve Gray's card is separated by one round. One round, all of a sudden it's a draw. We've got a draw.
Yeah, and
one
again,
for Usyk, one for AJ, and a draw.
And a draw, and see, Feldman wasn't going to have a draw because a draw don't get him across the finish line.
Right.
If his guy was champion, then a draw keeps the title for him. But in this case, a draw keeps the title for the champion, who's Usyk. So he's got to do what he got to do. And so, again, the 10th and 11th, he had no choice. That was too it was too widespread in favor of Usyk. And the 12th, he said, hey, I gotta freaking jump in here and do what I gotta do. And he's the only guy who didn't give that round, obviously, to Usyk, the guy who earned it. So look,
he's the only guy in the world that saw AJ winning that round. Even AJ probably didn't think he won that round.
Thank God we got it right, but it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. I'm sick and tired of it. And I really, there's no oversight. See, all the other sports have a commission, and some kind of national czar commission, somebody who makes sure this crap doesn't happen. But not here, not in boxing. You have all these different omnipotent commissions all over the country. Some of them are more of a joke than others. Some of them try hard, but really, at the end of the day, they don't have any real teeth. And some of them are just complicit with this stuff because they go along with the promoters. They allow the promoters to have the judges they want, whatever it takes, because at the end of the day, you don't have a commission if you don't have a promoter. because the commission's there to do what? To commission boxing. And if you don't have a promoter putting boxing shows on, well, you don't have a commission. So the commission has to kind of, go along and kind of, I hate to say it, but take their marching orders sometimes from these promoters sometimes. Because again, if the promoters aren't giving them work, then there's no sense in having a commission. There'd be no reason to have the existence of one. And the taxpayers' money towards one. So, listen, as far as the fight, again, Joshua goes out and, he wins one of the first 2 rounds. And then Usyk, I forget which round it was that he won. And then Usyk just boxes, he gives him a boxing lesson again.
They all had AJ win in the second round.
Yeah, so that's the round I had. I had AJ winning the second round. First round to Usyk, second round to AJ, and then, like I said, no more rounds for him until the 8th round. And I just saw what I saw. I saw AJ, looking to try to be more stronger, more the boss, but not doing it. Not physically moving his hands enough to do it. Not banging him around, pushing him around with the jab, and then banging with the right hand and going to the body early. He went to the body in spots. He wasn't consistent. The only time he stayed there was in the round that he did the most damage in the night, and then even after that, he didn't stay there. So you're going to give him this great credit? Oh, my God, he was so much better. I don't see it. I see, again, a guy that was stalking, a guy that was looking, a guy that was posing, a guy that was, looking the part. But I saw one guy who's doing the part. It's called boxing. It's called throwing punches. It's called scoring. It's called maneuvering and being in charge. And I saw that being that guy up into the 9th round, being Usyk. Then the 10th round was magnificent, the way he came back. Oh, my God. And you know what? If he was a little bit of he is the smaller man. If he's a little bit more of a puncher, he knocks out Joshua. And in the 10th and 11th round, he did such a magnificent job, Ken, he being Usyk, of counterpunching. Oh, my goodness. He was getting and controlling range. He was getting the bigger man to reach, to get desperate, to lunge, and he was countering the crap out of him. And the only thing was he was missing a big finish shot. He was missing a big straight left-hand finish shot. If he would have landed one of those, I think he drops him, and I think he winds up stopping him. But, at the end of the day, he wins. You got to give him all the credit. And you know what? I give credit to the promoter who's been with Joshua from the beginning, Eddie Hearn, for being honest. Well, Joshua went into some kind of diatribe, some kind of, I don't know, mental breakdown, whatever was meltdown, whatever. But he went into this place with for me, I could have done without the F-bombs. The rest of it, I could kind of figure out how to get through it. Kind of like when it's raining, you put up an umbrella. I get through it. But when the wind comes, then you don't even have an umbrella. And those F-bombs was the wind. But I give credit. You got Joshua saying that, he's evoking the names of former great heavyweights. He's saying he basically don't get enough credit, and I'm not this, but I'm that. And basically, he's tooting his own horn. He's saying how good he is. And he's talking about he doesn't get enough, basically, respect. He's going, all that stuff. And then I give him credit for this. Then he turns it around and he gives credit to his opponent, to Joshua, and he applauds him for his greatness and for the man that he is, the special man that he is. And he also, to his credit, he showed class, Joshua, with that craziness in between. But he showed class that he said that I'll help you, I'll be behind you in anything that you need in what you're going on in your homeland with that terrible situation in the Ukraine with the war going on. So he gives him support. he showed humanity. And I wish more people would show that nowadays. And that was beautiful. And I give credit, I tweeted it, I give credit to Joshua for that. But the part where he's evoking these former great fighters' names, heavyweights' names, and he's basically, going on and on about what he is and what this and that. And I think that he was trying to make people defensive, where he was putting you on the defensive because he's under a lot of pressure. Yeah, he's a multi-millionaire, but he's under a lot of pressure being built up as a superstar over in England. And I think he feels the pressure, Ken. And I think he was showing it there, where he hears the detractors. He hears the people that say he's been disappointing, that he didn't live up to everything, that he's been overrated, that he didn't win the big ones. And I think that he was reacting to that pressure, that he was trying to switch it around, trying to deflect it, trying to make us, the people that might have been a little bit, negative towards him or critical towards him in certain, I think, in my case, appropriate ways, but that he was trying to turn it around, spin it around, and make them feel defensive and build himself up a little bit. And I think it got a little haywire and a little wacky, but at the end of the day, he had enough sense to kind of cut it off and just say, this man's great, basically, and then, back him up and act like a man and show graciousness, show class. But I'll tell you, Ken, during that little trip to the Twilight Zone there, the things that he was spouting out, and again, I registered the way I did, but I could see people just kind of like scratching their heads saying, what the frick is going on here? It's not like it's an hour after the fight and he's been at the pub, shooting a couple down. I mean, this is minutes after the fight. But emotions can get you crazy. I think the emotions took him there. Again, we're not in his shoes. We're not in his skin. He's over in a country that has really built him up. The sport is big over there, bigger than it is here, unless it's a huge fight here. It's bigger than it is here, or a treat fight's bigger than it does over here, unless it's a Tyson fight, a Canelo fight, Fury and somebody. But otherwise, across the pond, they make these guys real superstars. And he's a superstar. And I've said it. I thought he was overrated. I'll say it again. I stand by it. That fight doesn't change my mind. Matter of fact, it verifies it. That when he had his chance, and I just finished giving him credit, people, but when he had his chance, really to close it out, he didn't close it out. When he could have been stepping it up, going to the body earlier rather than later, he didn't do it, So he came in second again to a guy that has lived up to his potential. A guy who hasn't been overrated. If anything, to a guy who's been underrated. And that's the name of that tune. Whether you like it or not, that really is. I mean, you could get mad at me all you want. I'm here to tell the truth that I believe from my experience of 50 years almost in his business. Now, does that mean I'm right all the time? No, but it means that I'm putting forward with no agenda, no horse in a race, what I truly believe from being in this business most of my life. And the thing that made it an exciting fight was the end. Again, it was one-way traffic for me up to then. Like you're waiting for Joshua to do the things that we expected him to do, that we thought that he would do, that people thought he would do, that his potential said he would do. And he didn't do it. He did some of it in the ninth, but he didn't do it to the level that he needed to. And that's happened. And again, they were trying to put him on Mount Rushmore as a heavyweight over there. And I was like, wait a minute, who do you beat for the title? Charles Martin? Does anybody, does anybody have his name written down in their house? I don't think so. And then he goes and he loses, to a last-minute replacement of Ruiz, who was, not as chubby as he was the second time, but not exactly, the advertisement that Jenny Craig would use, for her product and for her classes, right? Not really. Not quite the body that you see for that. And then he comes back, he redeems himself in the comeback. And how much of it was him in the comeback? And I give him credit. He turned his body, he changed his body, he changed his style, he boxed, he moved. I give him credit for that. But how much of it was that, and how much of it was Mr. Ruiz coming in 280 pounds or whatever the hell he was for that fight? So that's my take on his career. That's my take on that night. This guy, Usyk, I'm not counting him out with Fury. Do I think he's a favorite with Fury? If it ever happened, no. Fury's big and agile and a good boxer and mentally tougher than Joshua, quite frankly. So do I think that I make him a favorite in that fight? No, not at all. He's an underdog, maybe a big one. But do I count him out? No. Do I count this man out of anything competitive in life? In anything in life where you have to overcome to win? No. The man's a winner. And I stand up there and take the fall when I'm wrong. But we were right, Ken, with the fight plan, with our prediction, and we were right on this fight for the right reasons. That at the end of the day, he's a better all-around fighter. He's more, obviously, Usyk we're talking about. He's more well-rounded. He's more dimensional in every area, and he's tougher mentally. He's a winner. He knows how to win. He's been winning his whole boxing life. In the amateurs, winning a gold medal. In the pros, undefeated cruiserweight champ. Unifying all the titles other than Evander Holyfield. Probably the greatest cruiserweight champ of all time. And then undefeated heavyweight champ. So we hit this one on the mark. And again, we play around with our brothers and sisters across the pond that we love and we appreciate. But I hope I ate my crumpets when I had to, when I was wrong about the Josh Taylor fight. I did. My wife made them for me. I had them with butter. I ate them. They were good, though. It's not like I was being real punished. They were pretty damn good. I couldn't eat them now because I'm on this diet. But I hope you guys eating your crumpets. And I hope you're enjoying them. I really do. And I hope that all of you are really enjoying them, except for that one fan. I don't read the comments, but every once in a while Ken will tell me, or my son will tell me a couple, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful. But Ken was so on the button last week when he said, you got one idiot out there that he'll probably say you're racist because you pick Usyk. And sure enough, Ken was prophetic. Sure enough, there was a guy out there, and I'm like, you can't even pay attention to this nonsense. You really can't. You can't pay it. Racist is a strong word. It's a tough word. It's a word that really, truly embraces a lot of bad stuff. It's a word that signifies a lot of bad stuff and a lot of people that died and a lot of people that suffered and a part of a time in this country that we got past and that we suffered to get past and we died to get past. So when somebody uses that word, I think it's ridiculous, but it bothers me. I mean, it's like how...
It says more about them than it says about you.
Well, it does, but it's like, what a moron, what an imbecile, what a bad person. You must be a racist. Like, but to the point that that one moron that did say, oh, that's why he's picking Usyk. Wrong again. But I hope you eat your crumpets and I hope you choke on them. But I say the truth. I say what I feel. People don't like it, don't come here. But I also hope there's somebody nearby that knows the hemlock. I also wish that too.
The Heimlich.
I did that for my fans, Ken, just to give them the one for the day. The one little play with the Orson Welles stuff where, I'm playing with the English language. But the Heimlich. I hope that he does choke on his crumpets and everything else that he deserves to choke on, this son of a... But you know what? Let somebody know the Heimlich, whatever the frick it is. Ken knows it. Ken saved the guy's life once. So, and everybody should learn it because you never know. You never know, when you might have a chance to save someone. And you never know when you might have, some racist choking on crumpets that you gotta, that you, even though you hate what he stands for, you hate how weak he is, right? You hate how whatever and how troubled he is. But you don't want him to die.
No, and I wasn't going to say anything about the haters on the social media, but I will say this to the idiot who's leaving comments on my Instagram. Listen, if you want to disagree with me about anything, I'm a very easy person to find. If you want to troll me, do it on Twitter where you could be anonymous. But if you're going to come on Instagram and talk shit to me in the comments section where I have like my personal stuff, it's cool. Use your own picture, use your own name. If you're going to be anonymous and hide behind a fake profile picture, I can't leave the comment there. I can't argue with someone who doesn't have the integrity, the backbone, or the guts to be who they are. You can disagree with me. I'm not saying anything offensive to anyone, but to whatever the guy's name is, Whiskey Dick or Whiskey Sissy, whatever his name was, dude, use your real name, use your picture, and I'll have a healthy conversation with you. But don't talk shit to me from behind an anonymous thing that you're tweeting in your mom's basement like a coward. Anyway, one quick thing.
In underwear or something worse. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at? Something worse, like different kind of garments that men shouldn't be wearing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I don't know. Who knows? But put your pants on, put on some clothes, and send your picture over there, like Ken said, and do it halfway like a man should do it, and own up.
Teddy, I say this about AJ. I give him full credit for everything. He's an Olympic champion. He unified. He had 4 of the 5 major belts, however many belts. He had them all except the WBC. He's had an awesome career. Usyk's a little bit better than him, but I take nothing away from Joshua, and I can make it, and I can sympathize with him for losing control of his emotions in the ring afterwards. And I thought at the press conference, he started to break down, and I felt for him because you could tell how much he genuinely cared. And the other thing that I didn't really appreciate, and Eddie Hearn pointed this out, is Tyson Fury prides himself on his mental health and his work for mental health and coming back from the brink. But then to be taking shots at AJ when he's vulnerable and down, I just thought that as countrymen, he could have offered him some words of encouragement. There's a time to hype a fight, and there's also a time to help someone when they're suffering. There's no sense kicking him when he's down. He's disappointed. He's as sad as he's probably ever been. But like I said, he's accomplished a lot. He's probably made hundreds, plural, millions of dollars. So credit to him. He's got the most out of his career that he possibly could. And hopefully he'll stick around and do some other great things. But I just don't see him winning against that next level up of Usyk or even a Fury. And one last thing I will say, I got a couple of comments about this. And recently from my friend Ben Anderson reminded me that when we refer to Ukraine, that we call it Ukraine, not the Ukraine, because I think the Russians, when it was a territory and part of Russia, called it the Ukraine. And I think some Ukrainians take offense to it being called the Ukraine, like calling it the Mexico.
Well, I would never want to offend anybody, anywhere. Never. Anywhere, obviously, especially.
Of course.
Our Ukrainian brothers and sisters who are, going through what they're going through over there, which is just... It's just unmentionable, almost unfathomable that a country invades your country, unprovoked, and they start killing people and destroying a country. So we'll say Ukraine from now on. And
yeah.
But I tell you one thing, for all that's been knocked down and destroyed by the Russians over there, by Putin and his invading army, for everything that's been, knocked down, man, did this special man named Usyk pick up everybody. I mean, really, if in one moment, if you could just somehow reach out and pick up your people when they need to be picked up, he certainly did that. He certainly did that, and he showed what the Ukrainians are all about. They're fighters, they're warriors, they're winners, they're champions, and he just made himself and them proud. And you could see the legitimacy in him. You could see the sincerity in him. He doesn't get into all this other stuff and everything. Even when Joshua was going on a little too much, and again, he got to the right place at the end. I give him credit for that. But
don't forget, AJ also threw 2 of the belts out of the ring.
Yeah, see,
he took 2 of the belts, held them out, and then threw them down. I think the WBA and the Ring Magazine belt, he held them both out and then chucked them out of the ring, not like just dropped them down on the apron.
Yeah, well,
but those are Usyk's belts.
Yeah, see,
that was a little bit
I didn't
much.
see that. No, that's not class.
But obviously a knock against the organizations, but still, those are Usyk's belts.
No, listen, that wasn't the class that I saw at the end where he said this man's great, and he asked everybody to give a cheer, hip hip hooray, whatever that was, for Usyk. I saw that part. Maybe sometimes I want to see the good, and I don't want to see the bad. You know why? Because there's too much bad to see. So I don't know. Maybe that's what I did. I filtered it out a little bit for that moment. It's not good to hear that because it is the belts of the man that he just lost to. But
I mean, I could see if he lost his own belts and they had his picture, because ultimately you get your belts back even when you lose. The new belts are made for the new champion. But I thought it was a little much. And even if you're angry at the organizations, those are still Usyk's belts. You don't throw them out of the ring.
No.
And I feel for Anthony. I know he was upset, but you can't do it.
And I think hopefully I put that forward and I expressed that properly, that I understand the pressure he's under, being a star over there. And for me, his going bonkers there, saying all this stuff that was confusing to a lot of people, I think it was like he was trying to grab a moral victory, with the 9th round. And the guy's he's so banged out and banged around by not quite coming up to the level of what people expected of him and everything else. And some people saying that, he hasn't been what they wanted him to be, and blah, 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 whatever. And even with all his success, people have obviously looked at the negatives. They become detractors, and they look at, and I'm not one of those. I'm the one who I just point out his shortcomings, that I thought he was overrated. I never had him as a great fighter, as they did. And, for me, I'm just judging. I'm doing my business. I'm doing my job. I'm a boxing trainer, commentator too. And I'm doing my job. And I'm handicapping from my point of view what I have to handicap, and I'm breaking it down the way I need to break it down in all elements, in all phases of it. And if it's too much for some people who are fans or whatever, so be it. That's then your prerogative not to listen then, or not to agree, like Ken said, and that's fine. But I thought when he was getting into all that stuff that he was looking for a moral victory, that 9th round, and he was trying to kind of use that to kind of batter his naysayers, to kind of punch back, if you will. He should have punched back more the first 7 rounds, but that's what I feel. And more down the stretch, the championship rounds, as they love to say, the championship rounds. He should have done a little more then, instead of just hanging his hat on the 9th. And I think that's what he was doing. He was hanging his hat on the ninth. Again, people aren't going to like this honesty, at least what I believe is honesty, from my professional point of view, where he was just looking to turn it around, to make everybody, forget about the things they said about him, and all in once to say, yeah, I was everything that you said I should be. I was everything I was supposed to be. But he wasn't. But I think for that moment, with all the pressure he's feeling, he tried to make it that way. He tried to flip the script, if you will. And the script, from him being overrated, from him being disappointing in big fights sometimes, to flip it to say, look at me now. Look, what do you say now? Look what I did. But we are looking at what you did. All of it. Not just the 8th and 9th round. All of it. And you didn't do enough. Yeah, that round was real good. But the other guy, when he was hurt, he came back. And he did what a champion has to do. That's why he's a champion. That's why he got the most out of his potential and his abilities. And you can argue that Joshua, in some ways, is more talented physically. But that's not what this is about in life. In anything in life. In any vocation. It's about getting the most of what you have. Whatever that is. And that's about being mentally as good as you can be. Those are the guys that get the most. Those are the guys that go further than their own talent. Those are the guys. And Usyk is one of those guys.
Let's also remember, I think this gets underappreciated with Usyk a lot. Every single big fight that he's won has been in the other man's country. Let me just read you the quick list. He beat, starting with Michael Hunter in the U.S. Michael Hunter at the time was 12-0. Then he beat Marco Huck, who was 40-4 in Germany, German kid. Then he beat Bradis in Latvia, Latvian kid. Then he beat Marat Gassiev in Moscow, Russian. Tony Bellew in UK, British. Chaz Witherspoon in the US. Derek Chisora, Anthony Joshua, both in the UK. Fighting on other men's turf every big fight, and he wins, and he's won every single one of them. I think that's a huge part of the story that doesn't get enough airtime or enough play from the media. That's incredible.
Yeah, and
it's so easy to get a bad decision here and there, and he's won so convincingly they can't even rob him when he's fighting in their country.
And to that point, Joshua comes to the United States, to Madison Square Garden, and he gets knocked out.
First time. Whatever. Teddy, this, that, whatever. To Ken's point, this guy travels to other people's places, other people's countries, other people's backyards, and he gets the job done. And you want one reason for it. I just gave it to you 5 minutes ago, but I'll say it again. He's mentally the real deal. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, he's a more rounded technical fighter too. I said that. But he's mentally. And that's what it comes down to. For you people out there in your own fights that are losing rounds, that are having trouble, really, whatever you're going through, you don't have to cave in. You don't have to submit. You don't have to, again, give in. As the mental part, no matter how you feel physically, how tired you are, no matter how inept you might feel sometimes, if you have a will, there's a way. There's a reason why that's an age-old saying. Where there's a will, there's a way. And you hear that saying, you don't know what it means. You just brush it off. It's a cliche. But it's life. It's life. If your will does not say no, you will not say no. You will not lose. Believe me, you'll find a way. It's your choice. It's your choice today. It was your choice yesterday, and it'll be your choice tomorrow, people. And with that, one other choice you can make, Teddy, is a choice to take care of your health and nutrition. And what better way than with Athletic Greens? Shout out to one of our favorite sponsors, Athletic Greens. Appreciate them for being with us from the beginning. Please go to athleticgreens.com/ Atlas to get 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. I take Athletic Greens every single day. Consider it like a health insurance policy for your body's health and immunity, especially in a time of COVID. You can't get enough vitamins. Make sure you've got all the right vitamins, nutrients, and minerals by taking Athletic Greens once a day. Once again, go to athleticgreens.com/Atlas. 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. Support the show. We appreciate you. Teddy, let's talk about the UFC. Speaking of UFC.
One more thing that was definitely showed itself, and it was an influence, it was a factor technically, physically in that fight. And that was the use of Usyk's southpaw right hook. He didn't use it that much in the first fight. He depended mostly on his jab, obviously his elusive head movement, which he did again, his legs, which he did again. But he depended mostly on his straight left hand from the southpaw backhand, which is, power hand. But he didn't depend on the right hook, which is a great weapon for a southpaw, because orthodox fighters aren't used to that punch coming from that angle, from that direction. Your peripheral vision doesn't pick it up sometimes. And he used it. He used that right hook really effective in spots when the bigger man tried to be the bigger man and come forward, when Joshua tried. And it got his attention. And it made him a little more tentative. So I just wanted to put that out there that, he was not only prepared mentally, Usyk, but he was prepared technically, physically, boxing-wise, in all areas.
Yep, very good. Let's talk UFC, Teddy. Let's work our way through the main card, starting at the first fight. We'll touch on some of the early fights quickly and then save the bulk of it for the main event because there's a lot to discuss with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. But let's start with, from City Kickboxing, one of Gene Behrman's charges. Tyson Pedro looked incredible against Hunsucker. Tyson came into that fight biggest favorite on the card. I forget what it was, maybe 6 or 7-1. Usually you don't see those in the UFC. And Tyson Pedro blasts him out of there in 1 minute. He finishes him with a body kick straight down the middle, toes right into the belly. Hunsucker crumbled. It was too much. Just an absolute destruction by Tyson Pedro. Another great win for Gene Behrman and the boys down in Auckland. How'd you like it?
Wow. In boxing, we put water in the basement. I often talk about that. With punches, Pedro caused a flood with a kick. And Pedro took care of business. I mean, it was all one-way traffic here. I tell you, he acted like he had a date and he was in a hurry to get the hell out of there, to get out of the octagon, He had he had somebody waiting for him. He took care of business.
He's getting paid for the job, not by the hour.
No, he went in there, he got the job done. And as I used to say on ESPN, bang, bang. He took care of business. Nothing else to say about that one. I mean, and
Agreed.
Eugene, as you said, as always, he's our man. He's been on our air with the great Adesanya, and he once again has his guy ready.
Yep. Female fight in the next one. Lucy Pudilova, just absolute destruction of Wu Yanan. One-sided beatdown, to your point, one-way traffic. Finishes her in the second round with a barrage of elbows, punches, just a complete beating. Great win for Udilova. Interesting story about Udilova. She came into the UFC. I think she won her first fight in the UFC, Teddy. And then she went on, I believe, give me 1 second, I believe she went on a 4-fight losing streak. So she gets bounced from the UFC, goes on a 3-1 tear in a different promotion, comes back and wins in spectacular fashion. Just looked great on the main card. Big spot for her too on the main card of a pay-per-view event. Big card for the UFC. Congratulations to Pudilova. How'd you like that?
Yeah, excuse my weakness here for a moment. Pardon the pun, but Pudilova put it over on Yana. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I give her credit, Pudilova, where she knew her environment. As I talk about, she knew the geography that made sense for her, And when they were striking, and neither one of them really had an edge, and there was really nothing shaking. So what does Pudilova do? She takes it, again, to the geography that she felt that she could dominate. And she was right on the mat. And she did just that. And she grounded and pounded, and she closed it out. Again, where she felt that she had the greatest advantage. She was brilliant, ferocious, and strong.
Yep, I agree. Jose Aldo, UFC legend in action against Merab Dvalishvili. I want to hear you pronounce that name 3 times. Aldo cost Drake $240,000. Drake bet on Aldo to win, and Dvalishvili wasn't having it. He wins a 3-round decision. How'd you like that fight? These guys are always so technical and fast and efficient at that weight. But good fight. Clear win for Dvalishvili.
Dvalishvili, first of all, Aldo tried to use his great experience, Ken, to cope with a younger, bigger, stronger, and very aggressive fighter. He tried to do what made sense. He tried to slow the pace, and Dvalishvili he wouldn't let him. Aldo knows that he's the old car that can't go on the highway at 80 miles per hour anymore. He understands that. So he tries to take the back roads, slow it down, go on the back roads. And Dvalishvili, he was trying to go fast, 100 miles an hour, and he was. But he was throwing early on more obvious than Aldo. But Aldo, again, was using his great championship experience, and he was staying calm in an uncalm environment, and he was placing shots. He wasn't matching shots where Dvalishvili was missing a lot and just throwing, and like I said, running the ramps, ramping it up, 100 miles an hour. He was placing shots, Aldo, and he was hoping that would be what the doctor ordered to pull off a tough win with a bigger, younger, very aggressive, very confident fighter. And he just wasn't able, Aldo being he just wasn't able to land that big enough shot to slow down Dvalishvili. It just couldn't land something significant enough. At the end of the day, Dvalishvili, he was too strong and just too relentless at this point in Aldo's career. At the age that Aldo's at, the amount of miles on his odometer, at this point in his career, he just he was a little too relentless and too strong and too young probably. But I want to add this. Aldo showed the class of a legend that he is, obviously, at the end with Dvalishvili when, he got down on his knees with him on the mat and did what he did, praising him, talking to him, as you would expect from the greatness of a guy like that. I mean, that's part of his greatness, to be able to do such a thing and to be that gracious and that classy. I like it. I liked it what he did at the end.
Yeah, both classy guys. Teddy, before we talk about the main event, just a quick shout out to our friends at Feel Free. Check them out at botanictonics.com. Use the promo code ATLAS for 40% off your first purchase. It's a botanic-based tonic. I love these things. I drink them before big workouts, and I wish Luke Rockhold would have had one before his fight because he needed a little burst of energy. Paulo Costa finally gets a win coming off a 2-fight losing streak. Neither guy showed any conditioning here, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They were fighting in Salt Lake City, but I've worked out in Salt Lake City and run extensively there. Rob and I have done endurance events in Salt Lake. I don't think of it the way I think of Mexico City, Denver. Maybe someone will be like, don't be stupid, it's the same altitude as Denver. I don't know the altitude. I can just tell you from experience. I don't think of going to Salt Lake like I'm at huge altitude. Nevertheless, both guys Costa not known for his conditioning. Luke, I thought, would come in tip-top shape. I know he's working out with Chris Camacho and the legend Julian Edelman down at Churchill Gym in Santa Monica. But, Rockhold needed this win, Teddy. His record in his last few fights is basically he's got one win, 1 win and 4 losses in his last 5. He's been stopped in all the losses except the decision of Costa, which if Costa had any conditioning at all, he would have stopped him. But the heart and guts that both guys showed was insane. I mean, I think Luke Rockhold showed that he's a complete and total psychopath at the end when he rubbed his bloody nose all over Costa's face and mashed his face against Costa's face. There was obviously some very bad blood, but that was a crazy maneuver that I haven't seen anything like that in the UFC. I mean, he was just mashing his own face into Costa's face. It was troubling to say the least, and there was blood everywhere. They both looked a mess. Tough loss for Rockhold. He announced he's going to retire after the fight. Probably the right move at this point. He just can't win at the next level here, and he's a former champion. He's not going to be fighting. I don't think he wants to be viewed as a gatekeeper, and I like the guy a lot, but bad performance, bad conditioning. Again, I don't know if the altitude played into it, but Costa gets the win. Much needed win for him. How'd you like it?
Well, as far as rubbing his face into his face, that
was one of the craziest things I've seen, Teddy.
He was making a statement, obviously, and he was also grabbing, again, I'm going to use the same terminology and phraseology that I used in describing the crazy talking diatribe that Joshua went into at the end of his fight, where, he was grabbing a moral victory. He knew he lost the fight. He knew that.
I'd say this, Teddy. He thought he was grabbing a moral victory.
I'd
say he suffered a moral loss.
It only matters not what you and me think, or even our great fans think. What the person that's in that situation, in that pressure situation, it's what they think. That's all that matters. And part of the pressure is what makes them think a little cockeyed sometimes or whatever. But it's what produces that thought pattern and that behavior. It's the pressure they're under. We're not under that pressure. And I think after suffering through 3 rounds and showing a tremendous, unbelievable will to get through, where he was suffering with fatigue and conditioning or lack of conditioning from the outset just about, and he gets through it, and he knows he's probably going to be criticized for being tired a little bit, but he knows he's going to be applauded, or he doesn't know he's going to be applauded yet to the way he will be for the will that he showed. He just knows how he feels. He feels like he came up short, and obviously he's frustrated to a point that he came up short, and this is his way of grabbing something back. This is his way of grabbing, again, in his mind, some kind of victory, whatever you want to call it, or revenge, whatever you want to call it, but something that he can hang his hat on, something that he can make a statement with, something that he can say, yeah, look at me. Yeah, I lost the rounds, and I lost the fight, but you know what? I acted like a badass. And that's a big part of with a lot of these guys. I was the gladiator that we are and we're supposed to be, and I'm gonna finish as that gladiator. I couldn't finish as the winner. I couldn't finish as the guy that was in good enough shape maybe to even get it across the finish line, but I will finish by having the last laugh, if you will, having the last word, if you will, and smearing my blood all over his face, and making him a bloody mess too, because that's his way of kind of forgetting the past, forgetting what he didn't do, but marking the fight in the way he wanted to mark it. That I'm a warrior, I'm a gladiator, I'm a samurai, I'm a bloody mess, and this is how I behave at the end. I share my blood with the guy that I fought. And if nothing else, it's going to make people not talk about his lack of conditioning or his losing every round. It's going to make people talk about, look at this nut. Look at this gladiator.
That's a good point,
Teddy. Look at this, yeah. Look at this warrior. Wow. Because that's all people are talking about. So it's ingenious. In some ways, innately, instinctively, it's ingenious. And there's how he wasn't in better shape. He's obviously Costa was in a lot better shape than him, and he's younger. And look,
which is saying a lot because Costa's known for having terrible conditioning.
Yeah, so he was in a lot better shape, and he looked better physically in this fight. And he's in a lot better shape.
He's also a lot younger.
And he's a lot younger. That's what I said. And he wasn't dealing with 4 years of inactivity too. Let's be fair here. Yep. Right, Rock. Tell me exactly what the numbers are. But Rockhold was off for 4 years. Something, whatever it was a huge amount of time.
Rockhold's last fight was in June of 2019. He got knocked out by Blachowicz in February. So before that, he was off for 15 months. He got knocked out by Yoel Romero. He beat Branch in 17, a year before that, and in 16. So basically, 1, 2, 3, 4. Since 16, in 6 years, he's had 5 fights, and he got knocked out by Bisping in 16. He won by knockout in 17, knocked out in 18, knocked out in 19. Had basically 3 years off, 3 years off, 19, 20, 21, 20, 3 years. He's off 3 years and some change. Coming off a knockout loss to Blachowicz. He's got very bad blood he's got bad blood with Dana. He's always had odds with the UFC. He's fighting with everyone outside of the cage.
Yeah, listen. And he kept his reputation as a bad ass. And that's part of it. Look, at the end of as a rebel, he went out as a rebel.
Definitely as a rebel.
He went out as a rebel. And 3 years plus of being off and everything else, the inactivity, the losses, that's a lot to overcome. That's a lot to deal with. So that's part of, there's no excuse because you're getting in the ring, you sign a contract, you know how much time you have. It's your responsibility to be in shape. So I'm not making an excuse for him, but I am putting reasoning out there of partly why he wasn't in the best of shape and what he had to overcome, being older, being inactive over 3 years.
He's 37 years old.
Yeah, all of that. But it was incredible. I can't remember the last time I saw an elite athlete at this level, Ken, this gas that fast in their event. Whatever that event is or was, to see them gas that fast. I don't know that I've ever seen that. Obviously, he should have been doing road work with you and Rob. And at least his conditioning would have been a hell of a lot better. But at the end of the day, it was youth and the strength of Costa, versus the guile and experience of Rockhold, and of course the will. And, and again, what became an X factor, a huge X factor, was the lack of conditioning. There's no getting around. I don't know how much of it, as you said, Ken, was the altitude in Salt Lake City, or just plain the lack of preparation, period, because you know where you're fighting, and you know what you should know what you got to do to be prepared for a 3 5-minute round in the UFC, whether it's in Salt Lake City or whether it's in, wherever. As I said, I can't remember if I've ever seen anybody gas out an elite an elite athlete at that level gas out that way so fast.
Teddy, it was a 3-round fight. It wasn't 5.
No, I said 3-round, 5-minute rounds.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Because when you said it, I was like, shit, was it maybe 5 rounds? I started questioning myself.
No,
Yeah,
5-minute rounds. But
Yeah,
I
you
don't
said it
see
right.
how he could have made 5. I don't know. But
I wouldn't have made it.
But first time a low blow kick was just what the recipient of Rockhold wanted or needed. Because it
By the
allowed
way,
him.
Teddy, one quick question. With that low kick, weren't you surprised he didn't take the full 5 minutes? I would have just been sitting on the ground and laying on the ground.
that's
He had
a good
5
point.
minutes. He took like 2.
That's a good point. It obviously gave him a pit stop that you don't normally get out, a timeout that you don't normally get in this sport. It gave he needed it, and he needed it badly, just like the desert needs rain. I mean, or after a drought, wherever you need the soil needs rain. He needed that break. I was surprised he didn't take the full 5 minutes, but again, it shows you. As I know, it's conflicting because he's not in shape. He's tired. He's out of gas. He's putting his hands on his knees in the middle of the round. Crazy. And he's gasping for air. And then he gets a chance to get a break, and he doesn't take the full break. But it speaks, again, he's a rebel. He's a warrior. He's a tough son of a you-know-what. And he said, nah, I'm gonna suffer. I'm gonna tough it out. And he goes.
I almost wonder, Teddy. I almost wonder if he was like, "Nah, I don't need a break because 5 minutes, even 5 minutes, ain't gonna help me right now. Let's just get this over with."
Maybe a combination of, hey, let's just get back to it because I got my little break, and it's more than I expected to get, and I am a warrior. The only thing I can hang my hat on the rest of tonight, obviously, is not probably winning. Although he did sneak in a couple of those left hands, out of nowhere. He snuck in some shots on Costa, which was unbelievable. But I think at the end of the day, he probably said, the only thing I'm going to really have as far as anything, again, that I can hang my hat on is that I'm a tough guy. So let me be a tough guy and let me finish like a tough guy would finish and say, let me keep going and not take the full time. I was laughing. My son, who of course has been in the NFL for 15 years, he said, Dad, if timeouts were allowed in that sport, he would have spent all of his, in that. He would have spent timeouts. He would have made a world record out of using timeouts quicker than any sport, any team, any player ever used in his career. He would have used every timeout like in a 1 minute span. But considering the circumstances, you could say that Costa's really, and we always pride ourselves in giving the full story and not just, where nobody could say, oh, you didn't say this about that guy, Teddy, or whatever. But he won easily, but he should have dominated even more, Ken. Yeah, because
100%.
Really, not just because of whatever his conditioning was, or wasn't, but just whatever, his skills, his attitude, his opportunity. With a guy impaired, the way this guy was impaired. Badly. He should have, I thought he should have found a way to do more and dominated more. But I got to give credit, and you did, but I got to give credit to Rockhold for exhibiting, just such heart and will. And Vince Lombardi, the great legendary football coach, once said that fatigue makes cowards out of all of us. And that's a great quote. But Rockhold never read that quote. He obviously never. He's not a disciple of Vince Lombardi or football, and he never read that because he didn't allow it. And here's the point I often make, and I'll make it again, that he had that excuse if he wanted it, but he didn't. He could have submitted to that, to whatever it is, whatever your trouble is out there, people. whether it's drugs, alcohol, whether it's a relationship, whether it's bad luck, whether it's losing a job, depression of any sort, whatever. You can allow that to be the reason, excuse if you will, even though it's real. You can allow that to be the reason to give in, to submit, or you can say no. And he had the excuse of fatigue, his own fault, but he had it, and he did refuse to allow that to be used. He refused to allow that to be used, to give in. And he suffered, but you know what? He suffered so he could walk with his head tall, with his head up, as a warrior, as a UFC fighter, as adherent to their code of conduct, to be a warrior, that he could do that. And that was more important than being tired. That was more important than giving into fatigue. And once again, these gladiators, these samurai, they teach us that there are other rooms in our houses, and I tweeted this. There are other rooms in our houses that we can open doors to. And an incredible display, once again, of will. And I'll say my other tweet that I put out there. It was like seeing a kid with a sandcastle on the beach as the high tide came in, except that his sand was mixed with cement. His sand, the ocean would have said, "What kind of sand is this? What the freak kind of sand?" Kind of like the term. What's that movie? What's that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Predator, the original Predator, right? Where the Predator from outer space is killing everybody, and he's collecting their skulls as trophies. That's what they do for fun on the planet that he comes from, okay? They come down here, they kill us, they behead us, they chop us up, and then they make trophies out of our heads. So he's trying to do that with Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? In the movie Predator. And he wouldn't give in. Schwarzenegger, look, it's a movie, I get it. But there's people in real life that don't give in. And he was playing one of those people. He wouldn't give in. And he didn't give in to this monster predator. And at the end, the predator looks at him as the predator's dying because he hit him with a rock. And he was finally going to kill the predator. And the predator looks at him and goes, "What the F are you?" I mean, what else would you say to a guy, that just is doing something that you don't expect, so phenomenal, so unexpected? What the F are you? Like, you're from another planet. Yeah, I am. I'm from Earth. And I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I get to play tough guys, And some people in life really are tough guys. And they go and do what they got to do. And once again, as bad as the conditioning was, as bad as the form of the fight was, and it was horrible. It was horrible. But and it was nuts. It was. But that's how great the display again of a man's constitution, of a man's will, to just not cave in, to just not say no. And I'll leave it with that to you people out there. Never say no. At the end of the day, it's your choice to say no. Your choice not to say no to whatever you're dealing with, as I said. And anyway, let's get to that main event. That was pretty crazy.
That's a perfect segue. And towards the end, I think DC, either towards the end or after the fight, said that they were basically writing Leon's obituary. And to a larger extent, I think the UFC's been writing his obituary for a long time. 7 years ago, he lost to Usman. He's won 7 fights since. He had the no contest against Bilal Muhammad with an eye poke, unfortunate. But man, Leon has had a streak of bad luck. He beats Nate Diaz, but all anyone can talk about is that he got caught with a shot and was on Queer Street towards the end of the fight. He has Bilal Muhammad. He gets the eye poke. He gets shit for that. He gets into a little tiff with Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal sucker punches him and busts him open, and now all of a sudden Leon, through no fault of his own, total gentleman, just gets punched in the face. They turn him into a meme, 3-piece in a soda. I feel bad for the guy because he has been getting a raw deal. He's had multiple fights canceled. Now he's finally gets in with Usman. He's getting killed for the first 4 rounds. He's way behind, and he never
I got to
gives
correct
up.
you. I got to correct you. He won the first round, but go ahead. Go ahead. He won
Fair.
That first round. But go ahead. The
tide was
way
coming
behind.
in, though,
Yeah.
to your point. The tide was coming in. And then you tweeted this out. Put it on Instagram, and it was perfect. When we had him on the show, if you haven't seen the interview, please go back and check it out. You talked about how Nate Diaz hit him with a shot by using a tactic that you referenced, Jersey Joe Walcott would distract, and he distracted Ezra Charles with a little pull-up of his shorts and then clipped him. And Leon was listening, and he was like, yeah, I never heard him, but I'm going to go back and watch that. Well, it was like he listened to everything you said. And I don't know if Usman's been thinking about boxing matches he's always calling out Jake Paul, he's calling out Canelo, and his boxing looked nice, but when he fell for the boxing trick as Leon threw like a throwaway jab at him, Usman correctly for boxing slipped his head to the right of the jab.
Yeah, I tweeted that. I tweeted that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you read my tweet, kid. But No,
you said exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just highlighting what you said, which is
and that
exactly
way,
what he did.
I thought his boxing pedigree or teaching, and he's gotten good teaching, and he's improved tremendously striking. He has, Usman. But I thought that it hurt him. It betrayed him. It ambushed him. Because as you were just saying, and as I tweeted, and you would just say...
I just want to say, you tweeted this out and told him exactly what Nate did to him, and he basically did the same thing to Usman and moved him right into the kick, and obviously he starched him with the high kick. But with that, obviously, you pointed all this stuff out. I'm just highlighting what was seen. With that, take it away.
Listen, Ken, you said it right. You set the table. And Usman was setting the table with the jab. He was doing a great job striking. Trevor Whitman, he was a former boxing trainer, and now he's a big MMA coach, big UFC striking coach, MMA striking coach. Does a great job. But I thought his boxing degree actually, again, betrayed him and hurt him. Because when that throwaway left hand came at him, he slipped his head to his right to get away from it, the way that you would in boxing. But he forgot that this ain't boxing. This is MMA. This is UFC specifically. And there's kicks to worry about. And he moved his head to get away from what he thought was a punch and was a throwaway punch, but he forgot all about the kick. So his boxing, his concentration on boxing, and his level of learning boxing to the level he has actually hurt him. It actually, took him down to a certain degree, and added to his demise in this area. And I taking nothing away from Trevor Whitman, nothing away. I respect him. He's a good guy. He does a great job. I already said that. But in the corner, he was telling him, you could hear it. He was telling him to do more striking, not more, grappling, more on the floor, to concentrate on the striking. And the one thing, when he said that, that's what a boxing coach would say. There's no doubt about it. But I might have wanted to hear the voice of an MMA coach in there too. Maybe. And again, taking nothing away from him. He's doing his job from a boxing standpoint. And he's done a great job. And he's improved them. And he's won with them. I'm just saying that at that point I might have wanted, Ken, an MMA voice too. Because the MMA voice might have said, no. Keep him on the floor. Kill time. You can't lose except by knockout. And the best chance of being knocked out is standing, not being submitted on the mat. So an MMA coach might have said the opposite of a boxing coach. He might have said, I want you to kill the clock. I want you to keep him on his back. And if that's the way we end it, fine. You earned the fight. You earned the right to do that. Let's finish up here and get the win and get out of here. But he's competitive. I get it. And I think a part of what conspired against Usman also was that he got overconfident. You know, I always talk about this, Ken. I want a guy calm. You got to become calm in an uncalm environment. You do. But never become comfortable. Never feel safe in a dangerous environment. If you're a lion tamer, yeah, you want to be calm in that lion cage and know what the freak you're doing. But you never want to feel safe. It's a lion. And I felt that he got to a place by having the success that he had. I thought success hurt him. That he had the success he had, it almost became too easy. Where Edwards, we love Edwards, and we had him on our show, and people should listen to that interview. And Edwards, I said to him during the interview, listen, great fight, to knock out a great fighter, you got to set him up. You're not just going to knock him out because you're a good puncher. You're not going to knock him out naked, cold. You got to set him up. And I said, if you want to see a great fighter and watch tape of a great fighter that did that, watch the tape of the great Jersey Joe Walcott, how he set guys up, how he set up the great Cincinnati Cobra, maybe the greatest light heavyweight of all time, one of the greatest fighters of all time, probably had 200 pro fights, Ezra Charles. Watch how he set him up, with moving his hands, moving his shoulders, moving his shorts a little bit, and hypnotized him. Got him to look where he shouldn't have been looking. Got him to feel comfortable. Got him to feel safe for a second. Where he thought he didn't have to worry, and he did have to worry. Then he caught him with an uppercut from above, just like he caught him with a kick from below, just like Edwards caught him with a kick below. So I told Edwards, look at that. Obviously, I think he looked at it. Whatever. I'm not taking credit for anything. He went out there and he had the resolve to still be there after losing solidly in the fight. And look, I give you the x-ray of the fight, the whole thing. He was getting broken down mentally a little bit. He was, but he didn't give in. He didn't say no. He didn't submit, but he was showing signs, his body language. And you know who I'm going to give credit to right here, Ken? I'm going to give huge kudos to. He should get a bonus from Edwards. I'm going to give him a huge credit. The coach. In the corner, he recognized that Edwards was mentally starting to fade, starting to get deflated, starting to give in a little bit. And he yelled at him. He did what he had. Sometimes you just give instructions. Simple. Hey, listen, you got to keep this hand up. You got to move your head. You got to be more aware of the left hook. Sometimes you got to motivate. Sometimes you got to wake your guy up. Sometimes you got to shake your guy up. Sometimes you got to remind your guy that he's blowing it, that he's going to a place he shouldn't be. And that pretty soon it's going to be too long to get back to the right place. That's what this coach did. That's what he did. He woke.
That's Dave Lavelle, I believe.
Dave Lavelle, if that's him.
Make sure he gets his credit.
He woke and shook up this guy. He was honest with him. He wasn't one of these jackass. I don't mean to be cursing today, but I don't know. Is ass that bad to say? He was one of the. He wasn't one of these jackasses that I see in boxing. I see in the corners all the time. Sometimes even in MMA, I see that they want to go along to get along. They just want to howl for their meals. They just want to be buddy treatment with the guy. They just want to be friends with the guy. They just don't want the guy to get mad at him. They just don't want to get fired. They just want to get their paycheck, and they just, oh, you're winning every round. What? Yeah, I don't know. I'm watching a different fight. You're doing great, champ. Really? Like the old boxing joke where the fighter's getting the crap beat out of him, and he comes back, and the corner tells him, "You're doing great," and he goes, "Really? Okay, do me a favor. Yeah, what's that? Keep an eye on the ref because somebody's beating the crap out of me. All right." So do me a favor, keep an eye on him because I don't know. You're telling me I'm doing great. Somebody's putting a whooping on me. And I'm sick of those guys, those cheerleaders, those guys. Where's my pom-poms? Nah, never mind. I'm tired of those guys. This guy told him the truth. This guy did his job. This guy won the fight. Yeah, I know Edwards won the fight. And we love him. I love him. And I'm proud of him. And I'm happy for him, the decent human being that he is, the humble man that he is, his story, everything. I'm so happy for him.
By the way, Teddy, that guy's been with Leon since he's a teenager, I believe. He when he joined Team Renegade in Birmingham, this guy Dave Lavelle's been with him, almost like a father figure to him for years. So it's so great, too, when you see these guys come up and they stay with the same coaches and they bring them along. Even if they add to the arsenal of other coaches, they don't shit-can the guy who's helped get him to where he is. I like it.
I hear you. Let me tell you something. Marvin Hagler was loyal all the way through. A lot of people were knocking the Petronellis and saying you should get rid of them. You get rid of these white guys. Marvin Hagler, for those people living in the cave that don't know, he was a great black man, by the way, and one of my favorite fighters of all time, and maybe the greatest southpaw of all time, and maybe the greatest middleweight of all time. Definitely right up there in the top 2 or 3. And Marvin Hagler, with all of that, and Petronelli's put him in a lot of tough fights that maybe other people wouldn't put him in at certain points in his career in Philadelphia, out of town, where he even lost some, but he came back and he won them. He became Marvin Hagler. That's what happened. But a lot of people were knocking the Petronellis. Marvin Hagler stayed with him. And to the day he died, when I said a tribute to him on ESPN, and it's probably still up there if anyone wants to see it. But when I said a tribute to him, to this day, I stand by this, that, yeah, Marvin Hagler was strong. He was a great fighter. He was technically solid. He could fight inside, outside. He could counterpunch. He had a great granite chin. He had a great heart. He had everything, and he was a southpaw. But I felt that his greatest strength was his character. And part of the strength of that character was his ability to be loyal to people when it wasn't easy to be loyal. When it would have been easier, more convenient to go somewhere else and to listen to all these naysayers and maybe go somewhere else with someone else who offered him money, that offered him other things. He was smart not to at the end of the day, but he was loyal. He was strong. And I believe that same strength that we show in our life, that we show in our everyday character, or we don't show, I think that it either comes back to sabotage us, or it's there to strengthen us. It's there to propel us. It's there to rise us up. It's there to lift us. It's there to make us succeed. And I believe that his ability to be loyal, to show that strength of character, was part of Marvin Hagler's strength as a fighter, as the great fighter that he was. And why Teddy Atlas and other people still talk about him when he's gone. And he was gone way too early. So he made the right decision here to keep that guy. Because that guy, without that part, he doesn't get to the next part. He doesn't come out a little better. He doesn't get through what he was going through. The doldrums, the being down, the maybe the little thoughts of, I'm losing, I'm giving in a little bit. Maybe that goes further. This coach did his job. he did his job. His job was to do what he did, not to do anything else at that point, technical, to tell him, hey, behave like a pro. Get yourself together. And then when he saw that he wasn't responding, Ken, he grabbed him and made him look in his eyes. He looked in his eyes. He made him look because he made sure he was going to hear it. He made sure that he was going to get what he needed to get. The truth. The truth. And it woke him up. And it really, I think it saved the day. And then, so he's down 3 rounds to 1. And to break the whole fight down for you people, Edwards, in the lead up to this fight, the handicapping of this fight, me and Ken, I picked Usman to win. But I said it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a competitive fight. Maybe even a dangerous fight, but a tough fight, a competitive fight. And I compared it to our buddy, our friend, the great Dustin Poirier, when he fought McGregor the second time. He had lost to him 6 years earlier. You know, he got knocked out by him. And everybody was saying McGregor's going to win again. A lot of people were. And I remember saying on our air when I was breaking down that fight, Ken, and you remember it, where I said, this ain't the same guy. If McGregor thinks it's the same guy, he's more mature. Obviously, he's more grown up. He's older. He's better. He's more seasoned. You know, he's just a more developed person, man, and fighter. And, of course, Dustin showed that, and he knocks out McGregor in that rematch. And I was kind of using that as a analogy, as a sort of a comparison when I was breaking this fight down, that, hey, for those people that think Edwards is the same guy he was 7 years ago or anywhere near it, you're way off. He's a different guy. He's more mature. He's tougher mentally. Obviously, he's more experienced. He's a better fighter, and he's a more together man. Everything. And he did what he had to do in the first round. The first round, he had to send a message, Edwards. He had to go out there and send a message to Mr. Usman, the great Usman. He had to say, I'm not the same guy. I'm a different guy. I'm not the guy you beat and you manhandled or whatever 7 years ago. And he sent that message. He won the first round. The second round, Usman sent the message that great champions sent. He came back and said, yeah, but I'm the champion. Yeah, you're better, but I'm better. I'm the champion. It's my home. It's my house. It's my way. And he came back and established what he had to. He knocked out of the box the first round, and he took control. And then he maintained control by striking, by mixing it up on the floor. Here's a point that Joe Rogan made. I know hindsight is 50-50. I get it. But let me tell you something, Ken. Rogan made a point. When
Hindsight's 2020.
2020, I'm sorry. For me, it's 50-50. When Usman had him on the floor, and all the commentators, the great DC, the great John Adden, all of them, they were really good. And obviously, Joe
Rogan?
Yeah, Joe Rogan. They're all tremendous at what they do. And when he had him on the floor on the mat, Usman, and he was controlling him, they were giving accolades, all three of the commentators, appropriately giving accolades all night about Usman. How great he is, how he's the greatest welterweight of all time, which I agree. I think most people, one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. And they're giving all these accolades. And the one thing that Rogan said that I think got missed by a lot of people, he said, you know, the only thing this guy's missing, Usman, the great Usman, is he doesn't have like a finishing submission technique. He doesn't have that one technique to finishing. You know, he submits a lot of guys, don't get me wrong, but he don't have that killer move, you know, like some people have to triangle hold. Some people have the guillotine. Some people, that's their signature move. And he said he doesn't have the one out move, the one closing move. I mean, he'll get you out of there with his strength and his overall ability, and he's so well rounded. He'll dominate you, and he'll get rid of you. He'll knock you out the way he knocked out Masvidal. He'll submit you like he has many guys, but he doesn't have that one signature thing that you just want. He can go to and it's lights out. It's over. Turn the lights out. And later on, when it was over, I thought back to what he said. And you know what? If he had that one, even though he was controlling him on the mat, if he had that one move, he wouldn't have been in the situation in the 5th round he was. So that was one thing that Rogan said. And then there was another thing that, and again, to handicap the fight, after the 2nd round, he took control, Usman. He was mixing it up. He was jabbing. He was setting the table with the jab. He was doing a marvelous job striking, marvelous job on the floor when he was on the floor. He was doing everything, showing his dimension, and he was starting to wilt. He was starting to wilt the spirit and maybe even the body of Edwards. But Edwards didn't cave. That's the key. He didn't cave. And then again, he had that great corner man when he needed him, because you need him. You might not need him 9 out of 10 fights, but that 10th fight, you're going to wish you had him if you don't have him. And he had him. But when these huge upsets happen, whether it's in other sports, in team sports, individual sports, whatever, with any sport, any athlete, when these huge upsets happen, there's got to be some intangibles. There's got to be some fate, molecules of fate, of just, destiny in the air. And there was particles of that in the air. There has to be. That just certain things that happen. Just like when Buster Douglas upset Tyson. There were particles of fate in the air. His mother, Buster Douglas' beloved mother, had died before that fight, and he was going to be stronger than he ever been. He was never a strong guy mentally, Buster. Physically, yes. Technically, yes. He was a tremendous heavyweight. But when push came to shove, he got shoved. He did. Because mentally he wasn't tough enough, wasn't stronger. But he never had the strength that he had given to him by his mother passing. The strength to be strong for the memory of his mother. He never had that before. And he was strong that night. And it was in the air. There was something in the air. It was something. And that's what happens. And there was something going on in this fight. And sure enough, first of all, there was a low kick. That broke up the action. Just the rhythm of the fight broke it up. Just for a moment, where actually, who was it who threw the low kick? I guess it was Edwards, right? And whatever it was it Edwards? I think it was. But it was just a break in the action. Change the rhythm. Just change the rhythm a little. But here comes the big one, Ken. And nobody's talking about this. And here's the big one. I think this should go viral. Really. I think Rob's going to clip it and put it out there. Because Joe Rogan was almost prophetic when he said this. It was about 2 minutes left. Don't hold me to it. But it was about 2 minutes left. He got knocked out with about a minute left, 59 seconds left, if my memory serves me. Right, Ken? Something like that.
Yep.
So maybe it was around the 2 minute mark. And again, it's all one-way traffic, right? It's all Mr. Usman. And they're on a mat, and the referee decides to bring them up. It's his decision. It's a great ref, by the way. Great ref. One of the great refs. And I think his name is Herb Dean. And he decides...
That's right.
He decides to bring him up to a striking position. As soon as he did that, Joe Rogan, and that team is great, but Joe Rogan immediately said, this is what he needs. He better do something now. This is the situation he needs. Because Rogan understood what I understood and what anyone should understand, that he wasn't going to win on the floor. He wasn't going to submit Usman. His only chance was a punch out of the heavens, was a lightning bolt out of the sky. It turned out to be a kick from below, not a lightning bolt out of the sky, but it did the same damage. But Rogan understood, and so did Edwards, that his only chance was to be standing where he could deliver the Hail Mary pass. The pass that Doug Flutie delivered for Boston College when he won the national championship. Well, what a huge win that was when he won the college national championship, when he threw a Hail Mary with the clock ticking down to 0 into the end zone, and it got caught by the right colored jersey.
I don't think they won a national title there, but it was a huge, important game.
Well, it was a bowl win
against BC.
It was a bowl win. All right, thank you for correcting me. Thank you. But it was a huge, and it was such a big win that people still talk about it. And it made the legend of Doug Flutie. And then he went into the USFL, he went into the NFL, and a little guy, a small guy, but he did what he did what big guys do. He won. He did what little guys do if they want to. He won. He found a way for a little guy to win and to behave like a big guy in a little guy.
They won the 1984 Orange Bowl with that throw.
All right, that's what it was. Thank you. And it was huge. But it was time for a Hail Mary kick, not a pass, but the same idea. The same idea, guys, girls. And to throw the Hail Mary, he had to be standing, or to kick it. He had to be standing to kick the winning field goal. He had to be standing. So Rogan was so on the point. Oh, my God. When he said this is what he needs. Basically, this is his last chance. And he better do something. And you know what? He ticked it down a little bit. He ticked a minute away, but then he did it. He did it. And to his credit, he executed it perfectly. After all the damage that had been done that night, after all the being down mentally, a little bit, and being behind, he knew he was behind. After all of that, he didn't give up. He didn't give in. He didn't lose faith. And he listened to his coach. He got woken by his coach. They're partners in this. But he did the fighting. There's no doubt about that. And he went out there and he seized the moment. He saw that this was his moment. This was his moment. I think he even recognized, I'd love to have him on the air again. I think he even recognized the guy was a little complacent. I think he even recognized that the guy was feeling safe in an unsafe place, that he was in a lion cage with a lion, and he forgot it was a lion. He forgot he was in there with a lion. And you know what? Edwards was about to freaking take his claw, his back claw, and remind him, I'm a lion. You're in with a lion. You shouldn't be sleeping on me. And I think for that split second, you want to say he was taking things for granted, Usman, the great Usman. He was thinking, he was counting down the seconds, whatever. But I think there was a tiny bit of a little lapse, just a little lapse. And this man was there to take advantage of it. And he took advantage. He executed at the moment of execution. It had to be at that moment. And what did he do? He threw a right hand. He even threw the right hand first. You know why? To sell the left hand. Because usually when you throw a left, it's set up by the right. If you're a southpaw, right? It's set up by the jab first, then the left hand. So he really sold it with both. He threw the right hand to make it look legitimate. Okay, here comes the left. And again, Usman, all his boxing acumen hurt him, I think. Because he said, oh yeah, there was the little jab. Here comes the left hand. I'll slip it. But I won't ever expect the left foot. And the left foot came out, and just like that, bang. And you know what? to paraphrase the late, great Yogi Berra, it ain't over till it's over. And, wow. One of the most spectacular one-punch or one-foot knockouts ever. You know what? It was reminiscent to me, Ken. You know, my life is boxing. My life is fighting. Everything is reminiscent about a fight. You know, everything's attached to fighting. You know, sometimes my wife says, "Can we stop with the fight?" Not you and me, honey. It's everywhere else. Everything's cool here. You know, it's just, you know, it's everywhere else. There's fighting going on, and I just, you know, I'm just seeing it and feeling it and preparing for it if it comes my way. And the fight that struck me, and I tweeted this, was years ago. Big John Tate, that was his fight name, fought Mike Hercules Weaver. Hercules Weaver, boy, he had an Adonis body, as you would think. That's why he was called Hercules. And Big John was big. And Big John was from Tennessee, where you live. And Ken, do me a favor, all the people out there, find this clip. Really, I mean it. Because it was a real-life Rocky. This was real-life Rocky Saturday night with Edwards and Usman, no doubt about it. But this was the first real-life Rocky, where Tate, it's a 15-round fight back in those days, still 15, not 12. And John Tate, and that's the argument. Some people would say, oh, fights were 15. Certain guys wouldn't be champions, other guys would. You're right. But fights are 12 now. They're not 15. If the fight had been 12, John Tate would have still been heavyweight champ. But it wasn't. It was a 15-round fight, and Weaver was way behind. I don't know. He might have lost almost every round. But he was way behind. And there was, I don't know how much time left, but very little time left in the 15th round. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just like that kick, a left hook. Oh, my goodness. Ken, you got to look at this. A left hook came out.
I see the still. I see the still of the guy who got knocked out, just like starched face down.
Big John, that's probably my man Rob doing his job, getting something up there. But Big John Tate gets hit with this left hook from Mike Hercules Weaver, who was behind on all the scorecards. He hits him a left hook, and he starches him. He's out cold before he even gets halfway to the mat. Out cold. Falls face first. Big John Tate. And that's the fight that's how sudden this fight, that's how dramatic, that's how unlikely, that's how crazy this knockout was. It's making me lose my voice. I mean, it was so it was so crazy. So, I'm not being dramatic, everyone there. You know, I need a lozenge. I tell the people, go look at that and tell me if that doesn't remind you of how dramatic this fight was. Congratulations to Mr. Edwards. We love you. Congratulations to Usman. You've been a great champ. You're going to come back, I'm sure, the way champions come back with everything you got. But congratulations to just a humble, decent human being. You earned it. You deserve it. Enjoy it. And again, you teach us all, my men. You teach us all. Never say never. Never give up.
Yep, that pretty much sums it up, Teddy. And we're going to, hopefully we'll have another conversation here in the next couple of weeks with Leon Rocky Edwards. Great guest. Like you said, just a completely humble, genuinely nice guy. And I couldn't be happier for him. And at the same time, I like Usman too. I love that three-headed African monster that was Usman, Adesanya, and Ngannou. Love to see the African countries doing big things in the UFC. But great win for Leon, and look forward to the rematch. That's going to be an interesting affair. Be curious to see what that line looks like, because I thought when Usman even Rocky maybe won the first round, but I thought the rounds that Usman won, he really dominated. So it'll be interesting to see them get back after it. I'm sure they're going to get an instant rematch.
Can I add in one thing here?
Of course.
I gave these great accolades to, DC, the team that's at the plate, if you will, that's at ringside, John Anik, and Joe Rogan. They deserve it.
John Anik, Boston guy, doing a great job, making us proud.
Can't hold Boston against him, but he's great. And I have to give credit to the guys also that talk after the show, where they have a tough job. They got to go in the studio on the set, behind the desk, and they got to wrap it up for us. And not everybody's always there afterwards. I was there, and I'm glad I was, because another man who's been on our show, Anthony Lionheart Smith, who's obviously, he's not called Lionheart, he's called Lionheart for a reason, right? Because
he'll beat you up in the ring, and if you try to break into his house at night, he'll beat you up there too, which he's done.
Which he should. And which he should, and which would dissuade other people from doing such reckless things and wrong things.
Teddy, can you imagine the poor bastard telling someone like, telling his drug addict friends, because only a drug addict breaks into someone's house while they're home. It's so disgusting.
Yeah, right.
But can you imagine him? Hey, Joe, I break into this guy's house, and what do you know? It's a UFC fighter, and he beats the shit out of me from pillar to post, but I was so whacked out, I took the whole beating, because he did. Lionheart said he beat the guy bad, and the guy just kept coming like whacked on drugs. So say no to drugs, guys.
Yeah, please.
And
please.
don't rob UFC fighters.
Yeah, please. And then listen, as long as Ken opened that door, I'm going to go through it. And if you are on drugs, find a way to get off them.
You can do it.
Take all the help that's given you, but most importantly, dig inside yourself. It's there. Believe me, it's there. You forgot it's there. The drugs make you forget. You forgot it's there. But
you get hopeless.
You get hopeless. You forget it's there. That humanity, that toughness, that person is there. He's still there. The drugs are trying to make you think he's not there. But he's there. She's there. Point. So please, 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 if you're on drugs, if you're going through that tough fight, we always talk about fights that don't have to be in a ring. Please don't give in, and allow that person that used to exist again.
And I'll tell you this, when people see that you are trying to help yourself with those kind of struggles, I promise you'll get help from the most unlikely places. But no one's going to help you. When it comes to drugs, you have to want to do it. No one can make you do it. No one can talk you into doing it. It will take precedence over everything in your life, your family, your kids. I've been there. It ain't easy. But when you take the first step, you'll be surprised where the help comes from. But you got to help yourself first. No one wants to be involved in a losing proposition. But when they see you're up against it, they'll be there.
And I'll finish with this. Again, Ken opened the door. Great. He said everything true. I'll finish with this. Piggybacking off the words of Ken. That I ask you a straight question. For a moment when you're sober, a moment when the drugs aren't completely dominating you. If somebody came in and spit on your mother, spit on your father, spit on your siblings, called them disgusting names, completely violated them, completely abused them. If somebody did that, would you ever let that person into your life? Would you ever let that person into your house? Of course you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. Well, drugs are that person. Drugs are that person. Drugs are violating your family. Yeah, because they're going down with you. And they're destroying your family. They're spitting in your family's face. We don't care about you. We only care about doing what we having fun with the guy that I have control over. Taking him to hell. And controlling. That's all we care about. We don't care. Pooh! And they spit on your mother. They spit on your siblings. The drugs spit on your father. They spit on you. They act like they're your friend, but they're not. They spit on your whole family and your whole world. And again, they violate your world. They abuse your world. They abuse everybody that is sacred to you in that world. So all I can say to you, again, because really, people are going to say, wow, Teddy's really, he's really all in on this. Yeah, I'm all in. Because I know people that have been down this path, okay? And are still down this path. So I'm just saying that look at it, the drugs in the way that I just described them. The same way you look at a person who's doing all these awful, horrible things to your family. You wouldn't let that person in your life. You'd kick them out. Kick drugs out of your life. So having said that, Anthony Lionheart Smith, he was on the desk, and he made a brilliant point. And I talked about all the brilliant, and those guys, who's those three guys? Sometimes it's the girls, sometimes it's the writer, and then it's also the other fighter, former fighter. I'm trying to think who they all are because I'd like to mention all their names because they're all great. But Anthony Lionheart Smith, after the fight, just like Joe Rogan made those unbelievable comments that were brilliant, he made a brilliant point. He said that Edwards... And Edwards didn't get credit for this, but he said that he had been using sweeping leg kicks earlier to set up Usman by making him look for the kicks below, so when it finally came up high, he would never expect it. That was a brilliant point. A point that I kind of missed because I look at everything above, from the boxing standpoint. Through that prism, those glasses, those eyes. And that's an unbelievable point, Ken, because Edwards was throwing leg kicks and he was getting the attention of Usman down below. Now, was his intention to wait till there was 1 minute left and then set him up with a shot to the head to knock him out? I don't know about that. But I do know that it was probably his intention somewhere along the line that he's throwing these leg kicks to set up something high. Yes, to take his legs away. Yes, so he couldn't get set to strike so well. That was part of it too, I'm sure. But I really believe Anthony Smith really hit it on the nose.
For sure. And while we're giving credit, I also want to give credit to Ariel Helwani, who doesn't get any official love from the UFC. He's on the outs with them, but who, for my money, is like one of the best independent commentators or journalists covering the UFC. He's a good person, and he does a great job, and he gets the killer guests, even though I like to try and scoop him occasionally. One of these days we'll get him. But the guy's on top of everything, and he does a great job.
We can't complain. We get all the top guys in the UFC. We get top guys like Crawford and Triple G. By the way, we got Triple G coming up again in an interview in a couple weeks. But we get all the top guys in boxing. We get all the top guys in the UFC.
Yeah. And Teddy, shout out to Dave Lockett over at the UFC, who helps us arrange guests from the UFC. He's a good person.
Shout out to Charlie Monahan, who set that up.
Yes, of course.
He set that up. He gave us that connection. Thank you, Charlie. Yep. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, Helwani, for doing the work you do and doing it with the class that you do. And the consistency that you bring to this game. Thank you for that. So it's been a long one, Ken, but you know what? It was a deep one. We hit on a lot of fights in and out of the ring, but we hit on the fights in the ring. The two big ones, of course, the Usman, the Joshua, and Usyk, the Usman and Edwards. I think that the fans are going to enjoy it. I hope they do. And thank you for just sharing it with me and being with me and all our fans out there, all you people across the pond too. I'm sorry that your guy lost again. I'm glad we were right. I'm not trying to put salt in a wound, but I do hope that you enjoy your crumpets because, I had to eat mine. Some of you guys have to eat yours.
Yep, and with that, guys, like Teddy said, it's been a long one, but I hope you enjoy this one. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the show. It helps us a lot. We appreciate you. Support the sponsors, Athletic Greens and Feel Free. And with that, we'll be back next week. We've got some excellent interviews coming up for you. You'll see who we got here soon. But thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next week.